What's going on, everyone? Good evening. How's it going? Just your neighborhood hooligan here, broadcasting some more quality interviews and discussions with material relevant to today. So tonight we have a very special treat, episode 16 with Mr. Terry Trahan from WeaselCraft Systems, and we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. His martial arts background, his combative stuff, his Patreon, and his prepping side, talking about the crazy world that's going on today. This is some stuff you guys need to see. So this one will kind of be a little short tonight due to time constraints with both of us, both parties, me and Mr. Trahan. Got some stuff we got to do later on. So I hope you enjoy what we can give you. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on the man and the legends in the combatives community. I've been hearing a lot about him, so he's very well known. If you haven't heard of him, now you've heard of him, and you better read up on him. Some great stuff. So I'm going to bring him on stage right now, guys. Let's bring him on. What's going on, sir? Good evening.
Evening. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So I was just kind of talking to people about all the stuff we're trying to just kind of go over everything that, as far as your martial arts background, what WeaselCraft is, your Patreon. I want to really touch into your prepping stuff.
Okay.
Let's see. So just want people to get to know. Just give us a brief rundown, like on your background. Because I've been hearing a lot of stuff about you, and I've been researching, which I always do with most of our guests, to see. And you come very highly regarded by a lot of people in the industry as having some excellent material. So just kind of give us a brief breakdown, what is WeaselCraft and what is your background?
Okay, so WeaselCraft, number one, is kind of the catch-all for everything that I do. Way back in the olden days of computers, back when forums were the big thing, I was a moderator on self-defense forums with people like South Narc and Don Rarick and stuff like that. And through that, what I got done was labeled WeaselCraft. It's a term that came from Masad Ayub, and it's all the untraditional things that you do to get home. So I kind of took that. Another member of the forum made the image for it for me, and I just kind of ran with it. Background wise, I'm mostly a C-Lot guy. I started C-Lot back in the early mid 90s. Through a couple different systems, rose up pretty well, started teaching. But I also have a background. I started in boxing and wrestling when I was a kid, some Savat. And I also have a lot of live fire application. I was a bouncer for over a decade. I specialized in working at topless bars run by bikers. So, there's a lot of opportunity to test what I knew, what I thought I knew, and what I had been learning. I've run across the gamut. I would take seminars everywhere I could find them, just because of my background growing up. I had an interest in not getting my ass kicked.
Yeah, we all do.
But my main thing is like C-Lot mixed with a lot of dirty fighting. I also had a long period of time where I was very much into various different European and military style combative systems. So I kind of just mixed it all together, and that, with like I said, my live fire experience really influenced my outlook and how I teach. That, and I've always had an interest in some of the weirder side of things, lock picking, escape from restraint, stuff like that. So it's kind of neat to see that being on the rise lately. I was able to be in the intro stage of that, and taught some stuff like with Ed Calderon and whatnot in seminars that way. So that's kind of the basic rundown of what I do. WeaselCraft is more of a mindset. The number one rule is I don't give a fuck. I'm going home. It doesn't matter what I have to do. If that means I cross the street, if that means I apologize, or if that means I have to engage with the person, it doesn't matter. I'm going home.
That's why I loved about, and that's what attracts me to like systems like yours, is like there's so much fluff nowadays, with bullshit out there. All these fucking guys, just like a lot of art, but not really realistic stuff that you can use and apply. I like that. I don't give a fuck what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go home regardless. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to go home. You know what I mean?
Well, and I say that the way I say it is intentional. I don't give a fuck. I'm going home. It's also kind of an anti-macho. I'm going to beat up everybody I come across to go home. I was involved in teaching a lot with Rory Miller, and Rory, there's and one of the reasons he and I get along so well teaching is because there's a moral side to what you do, as well as an intelligence side. You don't want to make your life harder than it has to be.
Yeah.
So it's constant. I racked up 750 assault charges when I was a bouncer.
Oh, wow.
I didn't, most of them were dropped because I was working or it was mutual combat, but 750 assault charges is a lot and it's expensive.
Fuck yeah. So, have a good lawyer, right?
Yeah, it gets really expensive. So that was one of the lessons I learned is, even if I do have to beat somebody up, there's ways to do it where witnesses don't think that you were the aggressor. You know what I mean? Or if I can just say, hey, I'm sorry, I fucked up. Yeah, you're right. You're the big dog. I'm going home now. So you have to tread that line. You don't want to be a wuss. You don't want to have people walk all over you. But then again, you don't want to immediately pull out your knife and start stabbing somebody over him spilling a drink on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And see, that's what I like is you brought up a very good point, which I think is like very valuable when selecting an instructor, is that real world experience. What you said, what you see if what you train works. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you had the trial and error, like there's some things that maybe you did like, hey, this doesn't work, so let me change my tactics. Maybe this will work, I
would like try something and it wouldn't work. And after things were over, I'd get on because this is back before cell phones. I'd get on the payphone and I'd call Mark McYoung, who is kind of like the biggest mentor and father figure in my life, and say, I don't know what the fuck happened. We're going to have to walk through this when I come down next time, Yeah.
I was involved in a couple of different things last year, which I'm not going to get on. One of them still kind of going, where there was somebody that did some stuff at the bank, and there's a thing I did that didn't work. I'm not gonna say what technique it was, and then I tried another one, and it did work the second time. So I agree what you said, that I had to go back and be like, what did I do wrong after this happened? Like what did I move this? Did I move my body position was wrong? Did I not grab right? And then kind of the motor skill one kind of just took over, and I just did something, a sweeping of the leg. And that actually works. But the first thing I did was kind of like an arm drag kind of style thing. It didn't work. And then, the person got out of it, and then I had to do the sweep in order for it to work afterwards. So I definitely agree what you said, that you have to go back to the drawing board after, having those. I'm not a bouncer, and I never have been. I was in the military, but I'm not a special forces operator or anything. But I do have a lot of friends that are bouncers, and they always say the same thing you said. Like, you just got to trial and error. Like, some shit will work. We're in the fucking club. Some guy, pulls a beer bottle or a knife, and some stuff will work, some stuff won't. But sometimes you don't get a second chance. With a weapon, you have to.
Well, it's like I'm not a big guy. Okay, I'm like 5'11". I weigh about 210, 215 pounds, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I was smaller actually when I bounced. I only weighed about 175. And so, you get these big biker guys or big, football frat guys that want to show off and everything. So you have to be really discerning and pay attention. And that's one of the things that sets apart somebody who's a pro. If you're looking for an instructor, somebody who's a pro versus somebody who just likes to fight, is how much attention do they give you about paying attention to what's going on? How do they talk about awareness? Is it just, be aware, or is it how to be aware, what to be aware of, and how to take that awareness and work backwards, reverse engineer what the fuck didn't happen right?
Yeah. And I definitely, like I said, I definitely agree. That's another added point. Like, you don't want an instructor too that's always going to, be in 100% kill mode. You want that. I train with you probably heard of Julian Masson from Adrenaline Combatives. He's a student of Lee Morrison. He's one of my instructors right now, and he works the doors in the UK. And every time we train, he's always presenting me with stuff, with scenarios and stuff he's been through. And it's like, this happened to me. This is how I dealt with it. I love that shit because it's like, it helps me out. It's not theory. It's shit that's actually been done in real life. And it's not, he'll tell me like, dude, I tried this with this guy who's 275 rugby player. This brachial stun didn't work. So I went with the headbutt, you know what I mean? It's just, so I soak that information up and I totally respect and value an instructor who has that real world experience. And I think a lot more people out there when they select instructors should look for that. Don't just look for the guy with the fucking fancy dojo with the black belts and trophies and certificates. Look for the guys, the quietest guys, are the ones that have the most shit. And like I said, I started barely researching you, and I noticed you don't really advertise a lot. You're kind of like quiet, you kind of like laid kind of low. With you're not really like constantly putting out, like on Facebook videos or like flyers. You're just kind of like, you're there and your shit and you got your experience and you're just kind of like, I feel you're kind of the guy. It's like you let the students come to you because your material speaks for itself.
Kind of, yeah. Part of that's, before we started the podcast, I was joking, I'm a techno savage. I'm not that good at that kind of stuff. But I've never been real comfortable with self-promotion or anything. If somebody I've been out there since 98 online. I've written a lot of stuff. I've taught with a lot of people. I've been fortunate enough to make really good friends with people who know stuff. Therefore, I've been mentioned, people can find me. I don't do it as a living for the most part. I have a regular job. I did it for a while. I traveled and did seminars. And
that's how I found you. I just did my research and just started by word of mouth. And they're like, dude, you got to train with this guy. Like, what? You're like, if you said you could do combatives, like, why aren't you training with him? And I'm like, you're right. My head's been in my ass for the last 10 years. I should need to get my head out of my ass and go like start, finding people out, seek these people out. And you and Mr. Todd Fosse is another one that was on here. I definitely want to train with the firearms thing. I just want to get that holy tier of combatives gods, you know what I mean, and train with these guys and with you and Todd Fosse and get that knowledge. Obviously I know I'm never gonna be as good as you guys, but I mean I just want the knowledge, what you could present to me or like to other people and just kind of soak that up. So
a lot of it though is not being good. A lot of it is freaking luck.
I
mean, the last bar I worked at, it's where I met my wife. She was a bartender there. And we had this big dude, we called him Nasty Nick, and he got drunk one night and basically picked me up like the Yeti picking up Daffy Duck. Oh, he's pretty, he's my pet.
Yeah.
He picked me up and he looks at me and goes, what the fuck are you gonna do now? Well, I'm like, I'm scared shitless. I've seen this dude pick up like 4 people and throw them, right?
Yeah.
And so I hit him in his hip and he collapsed and I landed on him, put my arm on his throat and said, that's what I'm going to do. That was pure fucking luck. I don't know what I was going to do if it didn't work.
Yeah, plan B, you're fucked.
But the first rule of being a professional is make an accident look like it was intentional and then play up your own press. So that gave me a lot of points,
Yeah, I like that mentality you got too. I don't really see that presented a lot, what you just said right now. A lot of it's kind of like seek and destroy shit, but it's not like the repercussions or what the, or how to play the game with the cell phones now, with the cell phones, the witnesses. It's like, that's perfect what you said. I like that. I like that. It's just,
thank you.
It's awesome. So do you have a lot of edge weapon stuff in your system, or is it kind of just empty hands?
Okay, so I started out, edged weapons was my bread and butter for about 20 years. Not just on the teaching and using side, but I worked for like Boker. I worked for Spyderco for a little while. I worked for Boker for 10 years, 10 and a half years. I also managed some knife stores. I've been on both sides of the equation as far as edged weapons goes, but that's how I made my bones, was as a knife guy, quote unquote.
And another thing I've seen too that really piqued my interest when I was kind of just going through your stuff is the SAP.
Yes. A few years ago, well, I've loved SAPs since I was a teenager. But a few years ago, especially given the way society's going and once again, cameras or being on the news or whatever, a saying popped into my head that it's easier to turn off the lights than it is to drain the pipes, right? So I started actually going towards teaching impact weapons more than I teach edged weapons.
I was going to say that. In the eyes, I have a lot of friends. I train with some law enforcement, and this is a disclaimer for whoever's watching. Don't take this is not legal advice I'm giving anybody at all. This is from a law enforcement officer, and he told me this is what he told me. He's like, I'll tell you what. He goes, you see that knife you have right there? And I showed it to him. He goes, you carry that every day? I'm like, I goes, if you take somebody with that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to question you. What are you doing with that knife? What do you use it for? Well, I cut boxes with it. And he said, okay, well, it looks like a tactical folder to me. I'm going to look at the knife, whatever. And I told him, okay, what about this? And I had it wasn't this blackjack, it wasn't the sap, it was something else, an impact weapon, a tactical pan or something. He goes, I'm more likely to let you off with that tactical pan or that other thing than with that knife. He said, if you use that knife, you're screwed. He goes, either way, you're self-defense wise, you're screwed no matter use that knife. But you use it one of these or something like that, I don't know what it is. You're more likely to get off.
Prejudice against knives being used for self-defense. They're seen as a thug's weapon. Same thing goes with like saps, blackjacks, and brass knuckles, but the damage done with them is less, so there's less of a chance of getting in that much trouble with them. Mm-hmm. To be quite honest, most knife laws and impact weapons laws are asshole laws. You only get brought up on charges if you fail the personality test and you're an asshole to the cop.
Yes. Yeah, that's what he told me too. Yeah, if you get an attitude, he's like, I'm pulling your ass in right away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never fail the personality test. If you can talk and be an educated, enlightened thug instead of running your shit and yelling and screaming, you're more. It doesn't matter as much what you did as long as you can tell them why. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, impact weapons, especially like I said, with the way it goes now, everything's caught on video somewhere. Right, mm-hmm. is the best way to think about it. Plus, the laws have been changed. Attitudes in society have changed. It's easier just to knock someone out than it is to sit there and hope that you stop them with a knife, but you didn't kill them and worry and knock them out with something. So I do saps. Saps are my favorite. I do saps, blackjacks, knuckle dusters, and pocket sticks mostly.
Yeah, or tactical pen, right? Because people hear tactical pen, yeah. It's funny you said that when you're talking about, and the way I look at it too is like if you're using a knife as a self-defense weapon, or EDC, whatever, you're cutting boxes. I mean, I use mine at work, utility wise, whatever. But it's like if you pull out a gun, if you shoot somebody in the fucking leg, the cop said you draw that weapon, you're already in the eyes of the law. You're committing.
It's
that's what they figure, they see already. So when people tell me, well, if I have a knife, I'm just going to cut their fingers off, or I'm going to do, a slash, an angle one or something, on their forearm, or cut their thigh. It's like, but like you said, using the sap, knocking them the fuck out, rather than saying, or like I said, it's like same thing as pulling a pistol out. Oh, I shot him in the leg because I want to stop him coming at me. It doesn't matter. You still fucking shot him.
A gun and a knife have two things in common. When you pull them out to use them, it escalates it immediately to a lethal force situation. In the eyes of the law, you engage in lethal force initiation. If all you're doing is pulling it out to present it to stop somebody, right, that can be considered felony menacing. So if you're going to pull a knife, it has to follow the same rules as pulling a gun. You have to be in fear for your life. All the motive, opportunity, all that stuff has to be there. Pulling out an impact weapon, technically it can be a lethal weapon, but it's not designed to be. So, and plus they're a lot easier to hide and use from a concealed carry position than a gun or a knife is. Now, I will never talk down guns or knives. They're needed sometimes. You have to amp up to lethal force in certain situations. But for 90% of what you're going to come across, no, you don't need it.
Yeah, and I'm one of the guilty people. I don't carry a knife anymore. I haven't carried a knife in about 2 years. I do carry a gun. I have a concealed weapons license, and I do carry an impact weapon, but I don't carry a knife anymore. And a lot of people are like, "Well, why?" That's why in the last year I haven't taken any more knife systems. I've been studying Medusa, but I've been using Medusa as using an impact weapon rather than using a knife. So instead of using the knife and the drills, I use an impact weapon.
Yeah.
When I did Piper, Instead of using the twirling, you know, with the kudu, now I use like a palm stick or like a tactical pen. I traded it out. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to get away from the knife stuff as much. Like I know a lot of knife stuff already, but I'm trying to like not carry it because it's easy, like you said, to pull out and take someone out with it, you know, when the heat of the moment. And I'd rather use the impact weapon, you know, if I can use something like this and, you know, and then break a, you know, a radial bone, a wrist or something like that, and then take off and get out of the way and not have to deal with, you know, sitting there, you know. I'd rather do that than pull out my gun even.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. If you train a good knife system,
yeah,
that's a template. Because if you look at a pocket stick or tactical pen or something, it's just it's a double-edged knife that doesn't cut. It's blunt, right?
Yes.
All the same lines that you use for your knife work, especially if you do a lot of reverse grip stuff, is perfect for the pocket stick or the tactical pen. If you know, a decent like forward grip knife system, you know, like FMA, for example, that's your SAP, right? Because it follows those same lines. That's why the angles are there, is because they're freaking universal, right? So you already got a good blueprint laid down for how to use it. It's not a hard transition for most people to make. It's usually a mental transition.
Yeah, as I said, the lines of attack are there. It's just that whatever weapon you can say to translate to the tactical pen or the SAP or whatever like that. Yeah, so that's definitely my mindset of thinking too. But as far as when we were talking earlier, you were talking about it kind of intrigued me. You're talking about picking locks and like escaping from zip ties, handcuffs, and that seems to make a lost art. But I've seen a lot of people now posting videos of their versions of how they think to pick locks. How did that, like, what it came in your mind when you wanted to add that to your system? Is it something you just kind of like were always fascinated by, or is this relevant? Like it's like this is a complete system now. I have the pick locking. I have you know, escaping from handcuffs. You know, because obviously human trafficking and kidnapping nowadays. So
the first way it became important to me, why it impressed on me, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I saw a documentary on Harry Houdini. So being an escape artist and also Batman can do anything, right?
Yeah.
So that laid the foundation for it. Like I said, I lived a very, very unconventional lifestyle for most of my life, for the first 30 years of my life. I would lay odds that I've been kidnapped more often than anybody else that you would know, just because of the bullshit I was into. So that became an actual need for me because of the work that I was doing. And then it just kind of grew from there. And somewhere online, I hooked up with some people that were really into it, and we started developing things, and it became its own thing. I don't teach it very often. I think there's things that are a lot more important than escape from restraint. Not everybody needs it. It's kind of a cool thing to study, but you'd be better off studying like trauma med and learning how to take care of gunshot wounds and penetrating wounds and how to apply it.
And you also teach that as well, right?
Yes, I do.
Did you, like, when you started getting into that, like first day care, did you like consult like nurses, or do you have like a medical background, or?
I took first aid classes when starting in junior high school. A lot of it was trial and error. Like I said, once again, the unconventional life. So I kind of became the medic for my group of people. And so I would get my hands on everything. And then I took classes for, you know, trauma care and advanced first aid. I took a wilderness first aid class, stuff like, and then with the birth of how everything you can find on the internet and knowing some really good instructors, I picked up what I didn't know. Yeah,
and it's funny you said that too. A lot of people don't really emphasize that much. As far as guests I've had on the show, I really haven't emphasized that medical trauma care. I know I carry a trauma kit in my truck in my car all the time, with, you know, compression packs, stuff like that, gunshot wounds, stuff like that.
Well, unless you live a really fucked up life, have you seen more shootings or have you seen more car accidents? And what skill set can you get that will help the one that happens most often?
And it seems like what you got is like the complete thing, because you got like, and I'm about to touch on this one right now. I saw you have the cooking.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about, like, right now we've just talked about, like, the pick lock, all that stuff like that, the trauma. How did the prepper stuff, like, that's what interests me. That's what I wanted to talk about. How did you develop all this stuff, and like where did you pull your sources from? Is this, like you said, living the life you lived?
Being poor and being homeless for the most part.
Just kind of surviving.
Well, yeah. So when I got out of the Army, I hated society. I gave up on everything, and I just voluntarily went homeless for years.
Mm-hmm.
Not always living on the street, but I would go and I would, I wanted to be a rock star, so I went to California or whatever.
Yeah.
And being poor, you have to learn how to make do with very, very little. Conversely, in a survival or prepping situation, you got to learn how to make do with very little, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big difference in what most people teach is they take wilderness survival skills and try to apply them to the urban environment.
I noticed that. Yeah.
There's a little bit of crossover, but not much. Urban environments are a lot different from the get-go. It's because there's a shitload more people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to learn, blending in and learning how to constantly be out in an urban environment is a lot more important than learning how to make a fire or find water, because you can do that shit easy, But no, it just came about because, once again, the lifestyle I lived and the life I had. And for a long time, I would write notes on everything, what worked, what didn't, thoughts that I had, shit I wanted to try. And it just kept on coming up that this was a lesson that I had learned in life. And then I started being able to show it to other people. Mm-hmm. And that's where the cooking thing came in. There's a great morale boost for yourself. If you can, like, I posted a recipe today, right? It's the first time I tried it. But to feed 2 people at least 2 times each cost about $8, and I can tell my house smells wonderful right now. I can't wait to dig.
That's the chicken and cabbage one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that briefly in there. Yeah. Does it give recipes? Because I mean, if I know we recently just became friends on the Facebook thing, but I love to cook, so I have a lot of recipes. And the cooking stuff is something I want to talk about. So these recipes you had, it was this stuff like just like whatever tasted good to you, and you just kind of threw it together, and you just kind of started cooking it.
So I kind of just so I'm a Cajun, I'm a coon ass, so spicing things up comes normal to me, and I like to cook. It's fun for me. It's cheap, and food has always been a really groovy thing to me. So I figure if it's that important, I'm going to learn how to do it good. Mm. But also, I'm going to learn how to do it cheap, because money's tight, right? I'm not a rich person.
Yeah.
So how do I make really good, tasty meals that are affordable? You get multiple feeds out of them, and it makes you happy when you make something. It makes you happy when something tastes good, and it makes the day better. You could have the shittiest day ever, but you go home, you throw on a good meal, and you sit there with your spouse or your family or whatever, and you just enjoy the evening. So, to me, most of the shit that I teach is mental. Mm-hmm. And your morale is the most important thing, especially in a fight or a survival situation. If you can find a way to find just a little piece of being freaking happy, you won that day.
It also it's funny because you also clear your mind out. If you got a lot of shit you're worried about at home and your mind's all fucked up and you're depressed, and if the shit goes down, your mind's not going to be clear enough to figure out what to do in that situation. You're not going to be able to react. So you're going to be like thinking about, oh, fuck, I'm about to get thrown out of my house. Oh, I can't pay this bill. But if you're happy, even a little bit, if you're a little happy just a little bit, your mind's just that much more clear to react to some kind of situation. If it comes up, presents itself, you're able to react a little bit faster. Your mind is more clear.
Look at how much food is involved in community type things, right? Like, so I have a group of students up in Denver. We've been a group for since 2006. Mm. And one of the things that makes us so tight and everything was every time we had class, we would go out for breakfast beforehand or lunch afterwards, depending on when everybody could get there. we would make nights where everybody would come over and we would cook and watch movies or comedy or whatever. It's that bringing people together, making a community that makes it worthwhile.
Food brings people together, and I know people laugh. Oh yeah, I shit at work. I mean, we have where I work at. We have some of the shittiest fucking people that have the shittiest attitudes. But boy, you fucking makes you around with a burger burn at lunchtime or hot dogs and hamburgers. Oh yeah, what do you want me to bring? Oh yeah, it's fucking good, man. Good idea. And so it's like you're right. It took a turn to shitty day and shitty people, and it makes you that much better and feel good.
Yep. And that's what it's all that. So when you're training to fight, or to let me rephrase that, when you're training to defend yourself, it should be to make your life better, to make you and your people safer, right?
Yes.
When you are learning to prep and get ready for stuff, it shouldn't be just for that, oh shit, here's the end of the world as we know it. It should be to make your everyday life easier. Mm-hmm. It's all about your attitude and your mentality. I'd much rather sit in the living room with my wife and have a good evening than being out there being Billy Badass anymore. You know, that was for when I was in my teens and 20s, right?
Yeah.
I'm in my mid 50s now. You know, I'm going to be old in about 2 weeks. So that's why elders and community are important. You learn this shit from the old foul dudes that you grew up with, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you hang out with a bunch of old bikers. Yeah, there's stories about the time that they kicked somebody's ass or whatever, but mostly it's laughing and cracking jokes and enjoying being with each other. And that's what it's supposed to be. The young guys do the fighting. The old guys are the inspiration, but everybody gets together and enjoys shit.
Yeah, that's good. The camaraderie. Yeah, definitely camaraderie. Going back to the prepping stuff. What do you think is the most important things that somebody should have in their bug out bags?
Not that much. So the whole idea, especially like I said, I emphasize urban survival, right? Have enough shit in your bag to get home and to take care of the most likely things that are going to happen. I have a trauma kit in my bag. I have my multi-tool and some additions for it. Like, you know, I carry a Leatherman, so I got the bit kit, right? Just in case something happens. I have a spare key for my car. I have money stashed away so I can pay for gas. I have water. I have like granola bars or energy bars. It's all based on getting back home where I have most of my stuff. Mm-hmm. I also carry shit in my car in case, like, you know, I have a whoopee in the back of my Suburban just in case I have to crash out in my car. It makes it easier. Mm-hmm. All of this, you know, it's going to sound like I'm talking shit about people, and I really don't mean to. It's just I have a different outlook on it. I don't need $100 fucking gear to get home.
Yeah.
You know, an emergency blanket and a whoopee, I can sleep just as good as if I had a $200 Mountain Rest fucking sleeping bag, right?
Yeah.
It's all about making it easier. I try not to play into the just get gear to get gear. Get gear that makes your life better, right? I have some shit that I buy just because I like it, but I don't push it on people and say, you have to get this to be able to be okay. So get a good backpack. I do recommend Hill People gear a lot. I've had one of their small Tarahumara bags for about 15 years now, and I am hard on my shit. Mm-hmm. There's only 2 brands of bags that stand up, in my opinion. It's Hill People gear and it's Toomey for their messenger bags. Get a good bag, figure out what you need to get home. You know, I do have a set of lockpicks in my bag just in case, right? Mm-hmm. A flashlight, spare batteries, charging cables and batteries for your phone just in case. Mm-hmm. And concentrate on either getting home, or if you can't get home, find a place where you can comfortably sleep for a little while until you can get home.
And I see what you're saying. A lot of people, they always fucking just the wilderness stuff. Water filtration, building stuff for fires, cutting wood, stuff like that. And I do realize a lot of people, like, they emphasize that wilderness survival bug out bag. But it's like, if you're living in the fucking city and you're hours away from the forest or from, okay, I live in New Mexico, so I live in the desert. This is the mountains are nearby, and they have like pine trees, so it's like the high desert. But maybe my situation would be different rather than if I lived in fucking LA or San Francisco or New York, where I'm just totally surrounded by city. Right. So I do carry. I do carry half and half. What you said, urban and wilderness stuff, but I don't have like a lot of like just one of the other. I have a mixture of both.
Okay, so I grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado, right on the edge of the mountains, right? So I know how to camp. I know, but right now I live in Lubbock, Texas. It's basically the same environment you're in, if I remember right.
Yeah, you're not too far away from me. Odessa, right? Midland, Odessa, Lubbock. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's desert here. I don't need an axe or a chainsaw to cut trees because there ain't no fucking trees around here, right?
Yeah.
I have to know how to survive in a desert here, which once again, my whoopee and an emergency blanket will provide insulation from the heat for me. The big thing here is finding water. So that's where the concentration is rather than, starting a fire or whatever. I could go into a dumpster and find some paper and cardboard and start a fire. Finding water is the hard part.
Yeah, that seems to be like the big thing when it comes to the stuff. What about ammunition and guns?
I do not emphasize training with guns just because I can shoot. I carry a gun. I'm good enough to feel proficient with it. I'm not a certified instructor. I've never written about it or anything. Once again, my outlook on it is based on what I see needing to do. I carry a 38 snubby. I am not there to be Mr. Hero. I'm not going to try to take a 150-yard shot to try to put someone down. My goal is to get my wife, or if I'm with my daughter and grandkids, to safety, not be a hero, right? For home defense, I have a shotgun. I have a variety of ammo for it. I have double-aught buck and I have slugs. That's all I see me needing. But there's also the old saying, a rock will get you a knife will get you a gun will get you a rifle, and a rifle will get you whatever you want. I'm a big believer in field pickup, right? So whatever I don't have, which you can't cover everything that will come up, every possibility.
Yeah.
But I do have plans on and also I have a network. I have a community. I have a brother who lives a few miles away who we can get to. And that's a whole different story about what's stored at his place. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. He has like a 6-bedroom house. You can tell the difference there,
Yeah, it's just any I know I'm gonna sound like an asshole, but I'm just saying this. I got some of the iodine, for radiation and stuff like that. And people are like, you don't need that shit. You know what I mean? You're going to be dead in a white flash anyway when the bomb goes off. I'm like, yeah, but what happens if I'm not? And, at least that's something that maybe the P-tabs, like I do carry quite a few of them I have in my bag. Just in case. I mean, I never know what's going to happen. I mean, I know people are like, you don't need them, but I have them in there anyway.
You don't necessarily need them, but I mean, considering you live in New Mexico and the history of what's happened in New Mexico, it might be
Trinity.
This is a totally opposite outlook on things than most survivalist people have. But I honestly look at if the flag goes up and there's that big bright flash in the sky, do I really want to live in that fucking world?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So you have to balance what it is that you want to do. And when I was younger, fuck yeah, I'm going to be Mr. Warlord. I'm going to go out and I grew up in the 80s. We had all those books and movies about post-apocalyptic, right?
Oh yeah, I love that shit. Yeah.
But now I'm older. I have some health issues. Once again, I'm older. If it comes here, I'll fight to survive here, but I ain't going out on the road to be the warlord anymore.
Yeah, so fucking road warrior. Yeah. It's funny we talked about that because like a lot of people, like I said, the automatic thing is I'm going straight to the mountains if the blast goes off. I'm like, well, dude, like I work at Holloman Air Force Base, so I drive 45 minutes to work every day from Las Cruces to Holloman. I go to White Sands Missile Range. And then I drive to go to work. Obviously, when an attack happens, that's like the biggest fucking target. White Sands Missile Range is just like about 15 minutes away from here. So you're right. I probably wouldn't even need it. I'll probably be dead with a flash.
Well, so like I mentioned, I grew up in Colorado Springs, right?
Yeah.
We grew up knowing that NORAD,
Cheyenne Mountain,
20 minutes outside of where I lived. right after Washington, D.C., that's one of the top targets for a nuclear attack. So we pretty much figured we were going to be dead anyway.
We're fucked, yeah. I know. That's why I said I sound like an asshole. I was like, I got P-tabs, and he just kind of looked at me like, what? Everything you said was excellent as far as like putting in your bug out bag. Concentrating more in the urban rather than the wilderness.
Well, and the other reason for that is so everybody and their brother wants to hop in their vehicle and get out of the city and go live in the mountains or whatever. You're not going to get anywhere. The shit's going to break down. The traffic jam is. If you've ever seen like a sporting event, a professional football, imagine that times 20. When people are trying to leave the stadium. You're not going to get anywhere. It's better just to shelter in place, sit it out, and figure out what the hell you can do from that point.
So the game plan, figure out a game plan. So every family, like you said, should have some kind of game plan because shit hits the fan.
Yep.
Civil unrest. When you developed your system and your training, do you have do you teach like different scenarios like how can I say this, like an EMP attack, like a riots?
No, I think it's mostly just intellectual knowledge and then like consultation on gear, basically, because it's impossible to play all that different stuff. Now, occasionally I have done I used to call them my tactically homeless classes, where we go out and you become homeless for a little while and you have to make do with what you have in your bag.
That's a great idea.
Come to that.
I've never heard that before. Tactically homeless. That sounds awesome.
It was an
awesome, but I mean, giving you a real experience.
It's an outgrowth. I taught with Rory Miller. There's a thing that he does called violence dynamics, and it's 5 really great instructors. Well, 4. I used to be one of the 5. I haven't been able to go up there due to COVID and my job and stuff like that. But we, at the end of it's a 4 or 5 day seminar, right? All of us teach in different parts. And at the end of it, we would go out and do people watching. Well, when I came on, it became people watching and people hunting, because that's what I would do is I would teach people how to hunt and avoid being hunted. And that was growing out of that was the tactically homeless thing, because the easiest way to sink in the background is either being a worker, like a UPS delivery driver or a maintenance worker, or a homeless guy, because no one wants to pay attention to the homeless guy.
Yeah,
and that's how I would avoid being marked.
Kind of slipped through the cracks, maybe not noticed. Yeah. That's that the whole thing you say about that. Yeah, it's interesting. That's fantastic advice though, what you're giving as far as the bug out bag. I know I have a couple of friends and they have a lot of ammo. I'm like, dude, you have 2 bug out bags full of ammo. It's like, do you really need all that ammo? It's like you're going to fucking war. I mean, I even had a friend's concussion grenades in there. I'm like, dude, we're not I would worry more about trying to survive, shit I need, keeping warm and trying to eat rather than carrying, stuff for, shooting.
Water, food, light, heat.
Medical supplies.
And medical supplies. Ammo should be a distant concern. That ammo should be stocked at home, and you should carry enough to get your ass back home. Other than that, you're not in a small unit. You don't have to supply.
That's what I said. I was like, dude, you have 3 ammo cans of 7.6239. Do you need that? He goes, man, you're going to see, you're going to get in firefights out there. People are going to want to take your car. I'm like, you're not going to be getting into fucking firefights, dude.
Okay, so one of the things I like to use as an example of how things can go, back in 2020, all the George Floyd riots, right?
Yeah.
So you're driving through town and all of a sudden this mob comes up and stops your fucking car, right? How well are you going to be able to take all those people out and keep going to safety? It's not going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
You might be able to take 1 or 2 of them out, right? Odds are they're going to be armed as well. There was a case in Denver. They shut down part of the highway. A guy tried to start driving to get through it because fuck them. I'm going home. And one of the protesters started shooting and shot 4 of his buddies, 3 or 4 of his buddies. That is what is going to be what's happening. It's not going to be like what you see in the goddamn movies. And we have a culture that has been built up that we don't know what reality is. And you can't know what's going to happen until it happens, but you can base it on shit you saw before. And I really, really recommend. I wrote a couple of articles on the organic prepper during the George Floyd era. That's what you need to look at. There's another guy out there, and I shamelessly pimp people that I know or that I admire a lot. There's a guy out there named Selko, and he survived the Bosnian War as a civilian. That's what you're going to have to face, not this, I'm going to go out and be Mad Max kind of bullshit. And that's, one of the reasons I don't advertise a whole lot is because I'm at odds with a lot of what's out there, and it makes it difficult sometimes.
Yeah, you get the fucking, here's what he's talking about. I know. I think what it is, good knowledge is hard to find. You got to seek it out. You can't. It's not going to be there fucking for you. Just like present it to you. Like I said, when I researched you, I started looking at different things. I didn't just I didn't want to take the lazy way out and just be like, hey, can you just tell me everything? And I was like, I did my research. I started researching your stuff, looked at some of your articles, and and then people were telling me about their experiences with you and stuff like that. And I think that people, you can't be lazy. You got to seek it out yourself, and it's not just going to come to you. And that's good on you for not really advertising that much, because a lot of stuff out there we don't want people to know. I mean, it's kind of like people do all these fucking YouTube videos of a lot of irresponsible knife stuff. And I was asked to do a video a while back, show some knife techniques of this system. I was in, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting it out there on YouTube. So I'll put some stuff out there, but not like a whole lot, like where people can could get. So that there's moral and ethical stuff, that you can't just present a lot of stuff to people.
Yeah. I have a recipe for mustard gas, right? I'm not going to put that out there. That moral culpability is on me if somebody misuses that,
Yes. You said you wrote in articles and stuff like that. Do you have any books out or anything?
Actually, no. So all my mentors, Rory, Mark, have been pushing me to write for like the last 15 years. I actually have 2 that are getting close to being done now. One on CLOT and one on impact weapons. And then I've got a bunch of other ones started. For me, writing in short form, like for articles and stuff, came real easy. So it's been difficult to transition over to long form book writing, but I'm getting it done.
What system of CLOT is the one that you're studying? Is it Malaysian, Indonesian, or
Indonesian, Dutch Indo?
Dutch Indo, like
I started out in Sarah and Bhakti Nagara.
Yeah, that's what I did. Burton's is Bhakti Nagara, but I think what he did is he just took the stuff out that was and modified it for street use. Which, by the way, it's excellent stuff that his system is. I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but there's still some of the gurus, there's some of the we call it the staircase, the throwing over and stuff like that. But he just kind of just stripped it down just for street use, and as far as empty hand stuff, it's all there. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, with the off balancing, the sweeping, and I mean, it's just great stuff. I really love CLOT. I mean, I'm an FMA guy. I was. I started on FMA, and then I went to CLOT.
Yeah.
I study under Burton, and then I did some stuff with Professor Jack. Jack Altman from Harman Brentai. I actually trained with him when he was here. He came into this couple seminars here, so I trained with him in person here. And I really love CLOT. I love CLOT. I love the use of the crown bit. I love it.
Through the Sarah, I also did Monday for a while. I met a lot of teachers. I ended up hooking up with Mushtaq Ali, who, if you watch the early knife videos with Mark McYoung, he was a long-haired guy.
Yeah.
He also, if you looked at Stephen Plink's Bhakti Nagara video that he did through Paladin Press, he was in that one. I studied with him for 10 years and became the second in charge of the style and stuff. So that's what I teach. But I also joined an organization called the KSMA, Kapatiran Santukan Martial Arts, and we have our own style. I became a lead instructor in that. But through all of it, it's just been what I've learned. It doesn't even have to be CLOT to be incorporated into my CLOT. You know what I mean?
And so much of the combative stuff is taken from a lot of CLOT, a lot of the off balancing, a lot of sweeping. I had a hell of a time, and Like I wasn't like the most nimble person. Learning the leg sweeping and stuff like that, like it was kind of, for me, when I first started doing it, was a little challenging.
I stuck basically for a long time. My C-lot was combative strikes mixed with C-lot footwork, basically. Through like Moosh Talk, and there's another guy who's very, very instrumental in my grokking C-lot was Bobby Edmonds. We worked together for a long, long time, and he actually showed me that it's not just all flowery, pretty stuff. He taught me and stuff like that, and to appreciate it for the art as well. So you just have to play with what you're given.
It's all there, like, with the sweeping, like when I first started doing it, and I was an ignorant motherfucker. I was just like, okay, what is this I'm doing? And he's like, what about the Jewer? He's like, that is a Jewer you're doing. Look what you're doing. You're grabbing.
Just means movement, Yeah. So like from Kelly Warden, I got, instead of foot sweeping, from Kelly Warden, I developed an unholy love for foot traps. I love to step on people's feet and push them over.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the combative stuff is like that too. The pushing, dislocating the ankle, pushing over, stepping on there. But like getting back to the Juru stuff, he's like, well, what am I doing? He goes, well, look what you're doing. You're grabbing. He's like, and you're sweeping your leg out. You're throwing over, and then you're going back again. You're over, whatever. And it made sense. And I was like, man, like, I guess this isn't like this flowery shit. This actually means something. And he's like, I have my partner, I throw him over. I got excited. The first time I did, I got excited because my partner going flying over.
Yeah.
Like, see what you did.
Everybody can see what this is, right? This is just a straight up elbow.
It
takes some wisdom to understand what this kind of movement is,
Like elbow, yeah. And it's just like, I really fell in love with it. And not to knock FMA. I mean,
I love FMA too. I studied FMA longer than I studied C-lot.
I mean, that's where I started out at. I mean, I got my first rank of the sticks, and translating the blade and everything. I teach it now. I don't really practice it FMA anymore. I teach it to my students that want to learn it, the system I was in. But me, as far as me practicing or seeking out more FMA systems, I don't even do it anymore. I'm more into the combative. Due to what's going on in the world the last couple of years, I'm more into like, I don't want to say my time was wasted in all those years of doing it. As it's like, now I see like, guys like you and other people like Julian, and I'm like, what the hell was I doing? Like, like I thought this was self-defense. Like when I first started doing it, was sold to me as that,
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, this isn't going to work. I mean, I've tried some of this stuff under pressure testing. It's like this, and then I learned some of the stuff like you teach and like, and like Jillian, and I'm like, man, like this is what I should have been fucking doing from day one.
Well, so I don't like to give a bad rap to the traditional martial arts at all, because that's where I started.
Everybody started there, yeah.
Boxing is a traditional martial art, but you have to make the transition from their culture to our culture and figure out what works, right? One of the reasons I think C-lot is the art that it is, why I love it so much, is the saying C-lot finds you, right? Obviously, it found me. But it really was designed for small people to fight big people. And once you understand that on an internal level, so like I said, I'm not a big person, but I can fight big people.
We're the same height. I'm 5'11" too, so we're both the same height.
I used to be taller, but when you get old, you shrink.
Yeah. I'm going to say that same thing too when I hit 50. I'm only a couple of years away. Very short years away. So, yeah, I'll say that too. I'm only 5'9" now, guys. Yeah, I guess kind of finds you. Excuse me.
Well, and so there's two guys I work with a lot. We have a group called the Masters of Mayhem, and it's Edwin and Clint Oberlin, Edwin Voskamp and Clint Oberlin, and they're huge. We've done a couple seminars together. When we do the seminar picture, there's Clint here, and he's like 6'3", 6'4". There's Edwin, who's like 6'4" or 6'5", and then there's little old me in the middle,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I love about C-lot. You have that off-balancing factor. Like you could take, people down with just the weight drop and the leg and it's just so much. It's just awesome. We talked about the prepping stuff. Let's get a little more into. I want to give some advertisement for you here and some stuff. Tell us about your Patreon.
Okay, so it's patreon.com/WeaselCraft. The W and the C are capitalized. That way it sets it apart, and it kind of, that's my trademark kind of thing. So what I do on there is when I first opened it, I gathered as many of the articles I've ever written as I could and put them in there. Got them divided up, software versus hardware, because software is always more important than hardware. And I go in there, I hit it up twice a week at a minimum and put little short video clips. Hey, like the one I did yesterday was how to use a short knife effectively. So, without giving away too much, because, people who pay for it don't want me to give it away for free. Yeah. But there's a way to use a short knife more effectively than just trying to do slashing, right? Mm-hmm. I put up my poor boy cooking articles like we talked about earlier, how to make yourself happy cooking some good food. I got some medical information up there. Impact it's everything that I do is there. And I try, interact with people, question and answer. So there's some really good people there who put up, like I put up that chicken and cabbage recipe today. One of the responders to it was Maya Soderholm, who, she studied with Sonny Umpad, and she has her own books out, The Liar, the Cheat, and the Thief, about sword fighting and tactical application and stuff. She put up a Finnish recipe on ground beef and cabbage. So there's some really good interaction going on there, which once again gets back to, it's all about being in the community,
Mm-hmm. And it's man, and I don't know where I got been. Like I need to definitely subscribe to this. It seems like the complete. What I love about it. You got everything. It's not just about kicking somebody's ass, whatever. You got like food. You got the prepping stuff. You got articles. You got.
Hell, I tell stories that make myself look bad, like my big time urban escape story about escaping from the Marine Corps and getting caught by the guys who were on guard duty for the Timothy McVeigh trial. If you haven't seen that one, it's pretty. It doesn't make me look that great, but it's funny as hell.
Yeah, but that's what's awesome about it. You're real. You don't have to put on like some fucking macho front, like, oh, dude, like I beat this guy's ass. You're just like letting everything out, and like people are seeing. The real people are going to see the value, and the people that aren't are going to just be like, they're not going to.
One of my mentors when I was growing up was an old biker named Jerry, and he was a 3-time Vietnam vet, twice with the Army as a tunnel rat, and once with the Navy working on PBRs. Jerry was a short, sawed-off little mean guy, but he taught me a saying one time that if you're going to live fucking out loud. Don't hide shit. Don't try to make yourself look better, because people are going to find out anyway. If you're a dick, people are going to know you're a dick. Mm-hmm. So I kind of adapted to that. I live out loud. I had a very cool, very weird life. I know people ranging from authors to rock stars. I was a bodyguard for porn stars for a while. It's just
Any interesting stories on that
one? Just how screwed up your fans are, honestly. That's the big thing I picked up from it.
What was it? What was it again?
How fucked up the fandom is for porn stars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Stalkers, crazy fuckers in there, sick, perverted fucks. Yeah. Yeah. Who you can't name any names that who you bodyguard for?
I probably could. There's one that I talk about in a negative fashion, because she stiffed me for like $1,500.
Oh wow!
But Kathy Willits, she was famous for being, and she was married to a cop in Florida and got busted being an exhibitionist and went on tour, and so I worked her tour for a little bit. And she.
How did you get into that? How did you get into that scene though? Like, how does like? I got a friend who does cooking, does catering for porn shoots. And I told him, how the fuck did you get into that? He goes, I just fell into it, man. I'm like,
yeah, basically. So I was very much into the glam metal scene in LA, and it's very related to strippers, and that's bouncer kind of, and then you just it luck of the draw. I mean,
hand in hand, it's all kind of associated with each other.
I've never set out to have a career. The closest thing I ever had to a career was working in the knife business. Other than that, I take a job, and whatever happens with it happens with it. And
you said you wanted to be a rock star, because my son's actually in a couple of bands, and he's actually recording and writing music. It's on Spotify, stuff like that. So I guess I'd ask you, since we're talking about music, who's your favorite glam metal band?
They're not glam metal, but my favorite band of all time is Motley Crue. Second favorite would be LA Guns.
Steve Riley, rest in peace.
Yeah. I mean, there's some issues there. Tracy's band is more my type.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
he started
yeah,
Guns N' Roses, and Tracy's a cool ass guy. We used to hang out with him whenever he would do shows in Denver.
Did you ever do any bodyguarding for any rock stars or anything?
Yeah. That's kind of how I got my dream of being a rock star smashed. I got in a fight with Sebastian Bach one time. And
Dude, Sebastian Bach. Okay, before you go into the story, I'll tell you real quick. I went to see I don't know if you know their bands. Children of Bodom, Septic Flesh. I forgot what a couple other bands. Obscura. It was a metal band. It was right before Hard Rock, or was it the Hard Rock Cafe? What the fuck was it? House of Blues. It was down before they closed down by Hollywood. It was the last show they had there. And Sebastian Bach, I didn't realize how fucking tall he was. The guy's like huge.
Yeah.
And he was at the bar. And I was like, my friend was like, "Oh, you're Sebastian Bach." And he's like, "Oh, you're a fucking genius." Like, he's like an attitude. I'm like, and the friend's like, "Oh man, like, my apologies. Can I get an autograph?" He's like, "Fuck off." And he gets took off.
So the thing to remember about Sebastian Bach is he has like a 50-something-year-old body, but the mind of about a 13-year-old. He's just all about,
fucking dick.
Yeah, he can be.
I don't know if it was an off night or something in there, but like he's just an asshole. I was like, man, it's like, I like this guy. And he's being a fucking dick. Yeah, because I know my son opened up for Iron Maidens, the all-female tribute Iron Maiden band.
Oh yeah, the Iron Maidens. Nita Strauss came out of there.
You're what?
Nita Strauss came out.
Yeah, Nita Strauss. Yeah. So
she plays for Alice Cooper now.
Yeah. Well, it was Courtney Cox and I think Nicky Springfield, and he kind of met him and talked to him, and they were kind of a little standoffish, but I mean they talked to him a little bit. But his band opened up for him. This is like last year. So I also have some family. I have a lot of family into the music business. One of my cousins is in the music business right now, and she used to date Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They're still good friends now. He did a couple songs on her album. But she was always telling me, because she had bodyguards. She was really big in the 90s with her band, Stinkbird Conspiracy. And she appeared in a couple of movies, soundtracks, stuff like that. But she was telling about crazy. You're talking about the fans, like stalkerish, and you had to be careful, with the bodyguard security they had, and having guys get through backstage. So I definitely could appreciate like people like you who actually went and did like the bodyguard work for these people, celebrities. You know what I mean? It's really awesome that you guys were able to do that.
I believed in always doing what I wanted to do, and I would try to find a way to get it done. It didn't always work out, and that's where the funny stories come from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was great. I know that we got to go now. I got to go too as well. But just go ahead and I'm gonna have you just plug your thing one more last time. Where can people reach you at if they want to train with you? And where can people contact you at?
So patreon.com/WeaselCraft, capital W, capital C. There's a public post on there that will, it has my email address in it. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, always under my real name. I always believe in, if I'm going to put my shit out there, I back it up. So I don't hide behind a fake name, just Terry Trahan. I'm also like the first one that Terry Trahan that pops up if you search me on Google. Great.
Yeah, man, this has been fantastic. We have to have you on for a part 2 next time.
Sure.
We Coach Kurt. He was busy tonight, but we'll get him on next time too, so you can pick your brain. But see, that's why I like this. We talked about stuff that was really just what's going on in the world today, and I kind of want to talk about that in the part 2. So we'll set that up with you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for it.
We're going to go more into that. But thank you very much. Just hang out backstage. Don't log off yet. I'll be off right now. I want to talk to you quick before we leave. I'm just gonna lower you down. But thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been fantastic. This is like one of the most funnest interviews I've done.
Right on. I'm glad to hear it.
No, it was because we're talking about like shit we both like, and like, yeah, I think we're gonna get along great. So thank you very much for coming on. Though we're definitely gonna have a part 2, and just go ahead and hang out backstage a little bit, and I'll be right there. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and lower you down. Guys, that was fucking fantastic. I know it was short, and everybody's probably kind of like, oh man, when you watch this later on, you want more. We're going to get more. We're going to get more. We're going to talk about some more stuff that's going on in the world today and how we can prep for it. Maybe we can get some advice. Mr. Trahan has the Patreon. I'm going to subscribe to it now after listening to it. You need to subscribe to it and get on there and get some great fucking information, because like the stuff he's talking about is shit you guys need to know if you don't know already. But just, man, get on. Who do we have on next? Well, we don't have anybody on next because we haven't made November schedule yet. November's list will be coming out soon, guys. We're going to have a couple people on there. We're going to try to get a female guest as well. Fight House Talks podcast rolls on. So I'm going to get off here. I got Mr. Tron waiting. I don't want to take him too long. So thank you for watching. Coach Kurt may have an interview between now and then. If he does, we'll make an announcement. Thank you for watching. As always, thank you for supporting us. We do this for a love and a hobby, a passion for talking to great, fantastic people like we just did tonight and getting stuff out there to you guys. We thank you for your loyalty, watching the show, your support. Without you, we couldn't do this. So thank you very much. Give yourself a round of applause, right? All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here. I got Mr. Tron waiting. I'm going to talk to him quick. Have a great night. And, yeah, we're going to go ahead and see you guys later. Let me go ahead and bring up the background now. See y'all later.